All right, everybody. How's it going? Today is going to be our first take at a little weekly webinar where we'll talk about, different things, hopefully questions generated by you to come to me that we can, discuss, whether that's, cold plunge therapy, whether that's um, creating a successful, coaching program for you, whether that's how to eat better, certain recipes, something that, will help affect your mental state, ways that we can kind of get better as a team. But today we're going to kind of hit on a couple of things that I think are going to help us moving forward. And that's going to be like how to be successful in the program, number one. Number two, our like onloading process. And then number three, I'll just briefly go over kind of an educational piece on what like a macronutrient is. And we can kind of talk about those things too. So what I'm going to do for some of this is I'm going to share my screen. And for some of it, I'll kind of point to different sections of forms. I know for all of you, and Zach, at least he's driving. But when you watch this back later, hopefully you'll be able to see kind of what I'm talking about when I'm pointing to those certain sections. So first of all, and then actually we can field questions at the end of that too. And at any point, I guess if you have one, feel free to drop it in the chat, or you can just kind of stop me real quick. So being successful in the program, I think is going to take really 3 or 4 different components. First off is that, I'm not there to babysit you when you're doing any of the workouts that I'm writing and programming for you, or watch what you eat at a day-to-day basis, or, how you're training. So I'm going to give you a plan, and that's going to be the best plan that I can come up with. But honestly, it's your job to execute on that plan. So whether that's, I'm programming a split that's like, hey, you have a minute of an exercise. And if at the end of that minute in the first round, you decide that that weight was too heavy or too light, you need to adjust, or you need to change the intensity of what the exercise you're doing, whether that's more volume, whether that's slowing the movement down to make it harder, or speeding it up to make it harder. All of these are different ways that we can improve together, and we can make the program cater to you. So that's number one. Number two is going to be, I have a saying that recovery is king, but mobility is queen. So you'll notice that in the 12-week program, I have a mobility day and typically a warm-up that's going to be mobility focused. If you're not doing that mobility, you're losing out on potential gain in your program. You're inducing what like to call a half rep God. You're going to be you're going to continually find that you're not challenging your range of motion. You're missing out on strength and metabolic benefit and gain from you not exercising to your full range of motion and expanding your mobility. And when you do that, that's going to help cater to imagine just a squat is a most basic example. If you could only do half a body weight squat, you're only going to get half of that rep range, half of that benefit from the movement pattern. But if you can do a full one, think about the length of the muscle that you're able to contract and extend, and then really get the benefit out of. So just think about that. It's not just about, getting the the effect right then. It's also about promoting some longevity in life, reducing some pains later on, improving your joint stability. I want you guys to be able to move, feel, and look good for longer than just the 12 weeks. So next one, rest days. I know I have rest day, and I say that in air quotes because rest days aren't truly rest days. Rest days are a day that's not officially programmed. And those are the days that you're going to be able to use to go out, take a walk, take a hike, go on a bike ride, be active in some way. Don't just sit on your ass and then wonder why 3 days a week we're not starting to make progress. Don't be afraid to get up and move. Mobility, go do foam rolling, do something outside. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's more important that you show up and you're staying consistent. Next thing is going to be eating clean. I'd say that this is something that was a bit of a challenge. I think everybody kind of understands the value of good nutrition. But I think that everybody does that and then they just say, fuck it, and do whatever they want anyway. What I'll say is the easiest way to think about it is stay on the outside of the grocery store. I mean, if you're shopping around the outside, you're buying stuff that grows from the ground, swims, flies, those types of things, you're gonna probably be okay. Nobody really overdoses on fucking broccoli. It's really just not the way it works. So don't be afraid to reach out if you have any more questions about that. We'll talk a little bit about macros in a bit, but I just want to throw that out there. Like, shop on the outside of the grocery stores, try and minimize the stuff in boxes, and you're going to be okay. The next thing we're going to talk about here, and I'm going to shift my screen over, is a weekly check-in form. Now, let me share this so you can see it while we talk about it. Share. All right. So this is going to be a weekly check-in form that we're going to use for every client that works with us. Essentially what these are going to be, they're going to be due at 10 p.m. every Friday night. And they'll be looked at by me likely over the weekend, and then we can talk and cater and shift portions of your program for you based on what we read and understand from this form. So it's really important for you to be as thorough as you can be. Put as much information as you want to be in there, but don't spend 20, 30, 45 minutes on it. It's not meant to be a novel. It's meant to be something quick. So we have a touch point week to week. So real quick, going through this, you just throw your name in there, what week you are in the program. A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. What your current goal is. So whether that's a goal weight, goal strength, movement, improve vertical jump, whatever your goal is, just throw that in there. Your current weight, I say this one with a caveat. Your current weight, if you're somebody who is tied and stuck to the scale, I would say that we're going to wait until probably week 3 or 4 before we start doing this. So if that's you, please shoot me a text. We'll talk about it. It's okay to leave that blank. The scale isn't the only measure of success. It's just very one-dimensional. It's only going to give you a number, mass on the ground. What that does, it doesn't tell you how you look, how you feel, how you're moving, whether you're recovering better, sleeping better. The progress you're making in the mirror, I think, is going to be something that's way more tangible and easier to see. Sometimes you can be 3 pounds up, but it's just because you didn't take a shit, so think about that. The other thing that we've got on here is your current macros. We'll talk a little bit about macro split in a second, but try and put like a percentage for what you have. And we'll, again, talk through that in a little bit. We talk about how well you execute on this program or on the program during the week, whether you made any progress, what went well, what didn't, where do you think you can improve, how you slept, how's your overall stress, how are you feeling, do you have any questions, and then progress photos. So one thing I want to hit on here is that progress photos are totally optional. I will say that if you're able to take them at the beginning and, maybe not every week, think that it'd be nice to do every week, but it's not something that you have to spend a ton of time on. Maybe you do it, week 1, 3, 6, 9, and 12 instead of doing it every single week. But this is a way that you can have tangible data, because this is going to be a Google form that you're able to, or excuse me, Google Doc that we're just going to copy and paste onto the next page with a blank one. And then we're going to be able to run with that and then have essentially 12-week log of how we're doing and how we're progressing through the program. So again, those pictures are going to be optional, something that we can chat about too. And also, in the event that we get to a point in the program where you feel like you've had success, I feel like you've had success, and I'm like, hey, I would love to get, some sort of a client testimonial from you, whether that's a video or photos. I'm going to ask for your permission and your permission alone to use anything that I get from this. So if you say no, I'm going to be like, that's totally fine. I'm not going to force you to be somebody on social media for me or for the program in general to get more clients in the door. It's more about you being able to see your progress, and me and you are going to be the only people that have access to it. I've got the Google Drive restricted to just the client that this one's for. This one, for example, is Sky's, but obviously it's blank. I think that's about it for that one. The only other thing I want to show you is going to be our, let me move this out of the way. Stop the share real fast. A couple ways or things that I want to point out here for our progress photos if you are going to take them. Let me share the screen one more time. So here's an example of somebody taking a progress photo that is, they get progressively better, I'll say. The one on the far left, notice how it's not her full body. We're not getting really good lighting in the room. And I'll say that she only has the one pose in each. And I'll say when we do them, and I'm going to formulate this a little bit better, probably in an example that I'll post either on the page or in the chat, or even on our onboarding email as well, where it'll be like a front, a back, and then something from the side. That way we can get a gauge on, sorry, my mouth's getting dry. That way we can get a gauge on whether you're making progress and where you're making the progress, because everybody's fat burn, muscle burn is going to start, and the impetus is going to be somewhere else. So maybe for me, it's like my stomach starts to shrink, but maybe for you, you see it in your face, in your jaw, or whatever. And then when you turn to the side, you're like, holy shit, this is how we're starting to see some results. So it's a way to be more thorough with your progress photos should you decide to take them, which again, it's not necessary if you don't want to. And let's see, the last thing I want to talk about a little bit is macronutrients. So I'm just going to assume that nobody knows anything about calories and macronutrients and kind of go into a little bit of a speaking period about those things. So let me see how much time we have. Hopefully some more. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully you don't get cut off by Zoom telling me that I didn't pay for Zoom Pro. So real quick, I'm going to read off a little script that I wrote up. So just bear with me here because I'm not going to be looking at the camera. So calories, just imagine that your body is like a really efficient factory, and the workers in the factory are ATP, which is like your body's powerhouse molecule for energy. Basically like little batteries that go, to power all of your movements, from intense workouts to just blinking and walking around. The cool part is the calories that are the fuel that feeds these ATP molecules. So sometimes calories are going to be essentially viewed as tiny units of energy that your body gets from the food that you eat. Just like putting gas in your car, the calories are what's going to make your ATP move. So the breakdown, essentially, you get a calorie, you digest it. When you eat it, your body starts to break it down into tiny components like carbs, proteins, and fats. We'll talk about those in a minute. And these components get absorbed into your bloodstream. They get transported to the cells. Now that they're delivered, system kicks in, nutrients from your food hitch a ride in your bloodstream and get transported to your cells where the action happens. ATP inside your cells combine nutrients with oxygen through a process called cellular respiration. Process turns out ATP molecules, which are in energy, which are the currency of energy in your body. These ATP molecules then release energy as they break down, fuels everything, your heart beating, muscles contracting, and then you in a workout as well. In a nutshell, calories are basically building blocks of energy. They're like ingredients in your body's energy recipe. When you eat, your body takes these ingredients, mixes them up with oxygen, and voila, you have energy. So real quick, calorie equals energy. We'll kind of make that connection right away. And then we're going to talk a little bit about macronutrients now. We'll go back for a second. Calories in general, if you want to be somebody who is gaining weight, you need to have more calories in than you have out. It's just the basic math. So if I'm somebody, they say that the average person needs to intake 2,000 calories. If I take in 2,200 calories indefinitely, I'm going to continue to gain weight until I start to move more or burn more energy to then lose that weight. So it has to do with a ton of things. Your metabolism, they call your basic metabolic rates another thing. Like basically, if I just sat here all day long and didn't do anything, how many calories would I burn? That's different person to person and based on your genetics. We can talk more about this stuff a little bit later, but just want to make that clear. Like the calorie number is important based on your goal. If you want to gain weight, you need a surplus, calorie surplus. And if you need to lose weight or want to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit, as in instead of that 2,000 calories, you're taking in 1,800 or some variant of that that's lower. That doesn't mean taking 800 calories and expect that to work, because then your body's not going to be able to recover. We can talk about these things again later. But just really, really broad strokes about calorie deficit versus surplus and what your personal goal is. Okay, real quick, we're going to talk about macros. So macronutrients are basically those calories broken into three big groups: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So carbohydrates, they're like your body's go-to for quick energy. Think of them as like high octane fuel for busy days. Proteins are going to be like building blocks, so like construction crew for your muscles, tissues, and enzymes. They're good to keep you kind of in the game. They're really big for repairing muscles when you're working them in a big workout. Fats, they're going to be there to store energy, insulate the body, and keep your hormones in check. So they're going to be super important for you to save up for a rainy day in the event that you are needing some energy that's stored up later. So again, fats are not the devil, let it be known, but they are super important as a building block of a macronutrient. So each of those macronutrients has different calorie number essentially attached to it. So for a carb and a protein, every gram of protein and carb is going to equate to 4 calories. So say you have, I don't know, a protein shake that's 20 grams of protein. 20 times 4 is 80. So you're going to have 80 calories in that 20-gram protein shake if that's all that's in it. So that's all that means. It's a simple math equation. But fats have 9 calories per gram, so they're a little bit more dense. So, you know, if you have 1 gram of a avocado, you're going to have, and I understand that this isn't always true, but in this example, 1 gram of avocado would be 9 grams of fats, or 9, calories per gram. So this is something that we're going to take into account when we're programming our nutrition and working in MyFitnessPal. If we program a diet split, and I'm going to likely program yours to start as a 40% protein intake, 30% carbohydrate, and 30% fat. And then based on your own individual goal, we can adjust. And that's what that meal plan is written to. That's in the group as of now. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is a big hindrance for us when we're trying to go after a goal is having the right amount of protein in our diet. Protein, is, like I said, is building blocks for muscle repair, tissue repair, and it also keeps you fuller for longer. So something to consider is that the human body, and research essentially says that you should have between 0.7 and 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight that you weigh. So me, as an example, I weigh about 200 pounds. So for me to not have a protein deficiency, I need to be, 100 and make me do quick math. Somewhere around 200 grams of protein is what I'm going to need in a day to not be protein deficient. Now, when I have those 200 grams of protein, that's cutting into my total caloric intake that we would set in the MyFitnessPal app, or we would set when we're trying to reach a goal. So that now we need to fill in the rest with a fat, with carbohydrates, and then spread those out throughout the day in a way that makes sense, so that you can also still indulge yourself in my, personal guilty pleasure is a bowl of cereal at night with some fruit and like peanut butter on the side. So making sure that we build a diet that's flexible enough so that you can still indulge in those things that you love, but also you start to hit that protein goal, because when you're hitting the protein goal, you're going to start feeling more full for longer. And if your goal is to lose weight, it's going to be super important for you to have that satiation and move forward in the right direction. So we talked about a ton, and I know there's not everybody here on the call, but Sky and Zach, I guess just Sky now. Do you have any questions for me before I kind of just chop this up and then post it? Just so you know, you're muted now. There you go.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm good actually. It's been good listening to what you said so far. I don't really have anything yet.
Okay, great. Yeah, again, I'm going to throw a lot of this information in there into the Facebook page, and then I'll probably even throw it on YouTube, and that way we can kind of link that together so that if anybody has any questions, we can talk through them. But Their weekly check-in forms, again, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware, like those, we're going to start running with those every Friday. So please fill those out. It's going to be super important for us to get a before, middle, and after. We're going to be able to kind of see where we're at, tracking your food intake, going to be able to see where we're at along the program in general, so that we're making those fitness goals a reality that you have. And without a goal in mind, and without auditing where we are today, there's no way we can get to the point where we're going to be. So if you have any questions, reach out. I'm always available via text or WhatsApp. If you want, you can throw a question in the WhatsApp group. If you think it's gonna help everybody out, feel free to do that. But until next time, I guess we'll conclude this here and throw it up. So Sky, thanks for attending. And then I know Zach left, but he was telling me he was driving home and he was going to watch it later. So I'll end this recording, and then we'll see you next week.